pump that hit Kevin. Pump this pump. Click this pump. This pump that hit Kevin. Pump this pump. Click this pump. This pump that hit Kevin. Pump this pump. Click this pump. This pump that hit Kevin. Pump this pump. Click this pump. This pump that hit Kevin.
All right, everybody. That was the Rob Tui theme by Leroon. We are live. It is Sunday. Is it Sunday? Yeah, it's Easter Sunday, April 1st. We have with us tonight on All Things Fantasy Grounds talk show our special guest, the digital DM, David Middleton. This is not an April Fool's joke. He is really here. You're going to see him in a second. But first, before we get started, I am going to share my screen, and I'm going to show you the spreadsheet. You guys will see what we see. I'll bring up the guys in a second. You'll see them. And I just need to let you guys know that All Things Fantasy Grounds Talk Show is meant to teach and help, but the opinions stated by the show are not those of the Smiteworks USA LLC or Fantasy Grounds, just the three of us. And so let me switch over, and we can say hello to Leroon and David. How's it going, guys?
What's up?
So
what's going on, guys? Thanks
Leroon,
for having me on.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here, man. This is awesome. Leroon does not have a camera. Well, he does, but he doesn't like to be seen. He likes to remain like a James Bond villain, so you'll never see his face. David's face you always see, and mine, unfortunately, you have to see now. So at least you can look at Velvet Enterprise and Monsters of the Guild hardback cover right there.
That's almost as good as the Velvet Elvis. I mean, it's just as good.
Velvet Elvis people have. Velvet Enterprise nobody has.
No,
yeah,
that is pretty rare.
So I get questions about that on the rare occasion that other human beings come into my house, which hardly ever happens. But yeah, thanks for coming, Dave. Thanks for being on the show. Normally we do sort of a Fantasy Grounds thing where we show the screen or show Fantasy Grounds or teach people tips and tricks or whatever. But I thought I would bring you on and just kind of have a bullshit session because the way I like to put it is everybody who knows me knows you, but that necessarily doesn't work in reverse. Everybody that knows you doesn't know me. But you're one of the first guys I found online. You and Schmo were the two people that I found first when I discovered what Fantasy Grounds was, and you know, you and I have struck up a friendship, and now we both work for the company. So there you go.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. And we have this huge, big Fantasy Grounds Unity announcement too tonight.
Oh,
I'm just kidding. This is April Fools. April Fools.
Oh my God! Yeah, why would that be on my show anyway, right?
I had to do that really quick because I know if we would have let it go on and on and on, I know that Doug would have just been he would have been beyond himself, or Carl would have been beyond himself.
Yeah, Carl would have shit himself because of
the chat's like, God damn you.
As long as you put 2020 on the end of whatever you say, you're fine. No, but it was pretty cool the other day, just a couple of days ago. You and Doug showed some stuff on the Friday, the Fantasy Grounds Fridays show. That was pretty cool.
Yeah,
I was there for that. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah, the water effects that Carl's working on.
Yeah, the water effects and the rain.
Pretty awesome, yeah.
And the fact that you can make it rain like outside the dungeon and not inside the dungeon, and oh man, that's pretty cool.
And it'll all be done by layers, and there's Doug had mentioned that there's going to be GM tools in the program itself to where it's going to trace everything for you, so you don't have to spend a bunch of time, because the whole thing is we want for the DM, we want Fantasy Grounds to be as fast and simple as possible. So that's carrying over into the new platform, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's gonna be.
And
cool.
I don't have access to it. I have a lot of people that always are like, "Oh, Dave, what's going on with Unity and when's it coming out?" And honestly, I have no clue. I mean, I'm not a programmer. I do customer support and the YouTube channel and the Twitch channel. So I don't have any access to that stuff. So
yeah, and people
the only
ask
thing
me
that
all
I
the
see
time.
is when Doug shows it. So yeah,
right. People ask me all the time too, and I'm like, I'm just a guy who does tweets. Like, I don't know anything. Because believe me, if I had a copy of Unity myself, I would have been passed out, and I wouldn't even be doing the show right now because I'd have been so excited. But why don't, for those that don't know, I can't imagine that anybody who's watching right now, or anybody who might be seeing this after the fact on YouTube, doesn't know who David Middleton is, the digital DM. But why don't you tell people in relation to Fantasy Grounds and Twitch and everything, why don't you give people a quick synopsis of who is Dave?
Sure. So, my name is Dave, by the way, if you don't know me, and I'm having I guess. Well, I've been playing D&D since about 1984, and I met some kids. I had just gone to a new school. In fact, where I was living, my parents got jobs where they were working on the space shuttle when the space shuttle program first came up in Florida, and the neighborhood that we had moved to had just grown exponentially. It just exploded, and there were no schools. So all of the kids, which there were just millions of kids, not millions, of course, I'm exaggerating on the millions, but there's a ton of kids, and we were shipped over all these other schools. And I remember watching the D&D cartoon. Man, I'm starting like super early, so I hope you guys got like a sandwich and a drink or something like that. But
we have time. We have time.
But yeah, I met some kids at school. They were playing on the playground down there, and the tractor tires that were full of muddy water and spiders, and throwing each other off of these massive tires and sword fighting and stuff. So that's how I got into D&D, and I've loved it ever since. And about 5 years ago, I had stopped playing for a couple of years because of EverQuest and the whole MMO RPG fad that had come out. No more rolling dice. We don't have to roll dice anymore. But over time, we had missed that. But I had been with the same guys from fourth grade up till about 1999 or so, or 98. And like when Diablo came out and stuff, and we were just infatuated with the whole, Al Gore internet and stuff. So he did create the internet.
Al Gore created.
All you got to do is you just got to ask him. So I didn't play for a couple years, and then I got back into Neverwinter Online, and because it was D&D, it was 4th edition. I love 4th edition. I'm in the minority when I say that. And I met some people, and Zovia was one of these people, and we all talked about playing D&D, and nobody wanted to DM, so I said, all right, I'll take one for the team, and I'll DM. And I think playing for all those years helped me anyway. But I wanted a virtual tabletop, and I bought Fantasy Grounds, and I bought it because I wanted to play Savage Worlds, and I wanted to play Castles and Crusades. So, and D&D Next was in the playtest, but, there wasn't a lot going on with it at the time because some of it was still in private testing, some of it was open. But eventually, I started, I didn't even know about Twitch. My son set me up with OBS and said, okay, Dad, press this button, because I had a friend, Josh, that wanted to watch the game that couldn't play. So I thought Twitch was a recording site like YouTube. I'd had no clue that there was a live chat and all that other stuff. So my son came into the room one day and said, hey, Dad, you got like 50 people asking you questions. Are you going to answer them? So I'm like, okay, son, I said, I didn't even know we were live. So, but that's how it all began. And, there was like 2 channels that were streaming. Once I found out what Twitch was, and it was like Rob's game group, and there was Thursday nights, and there was another group playing Pathfinder, and that's how I got going, and it just grew and grew ever since, and I was like, wow. So yeah.
That's pretty funny. I had no idea that when you started streaming that you were that you didn't even know you were live, and that you were.
I didn't.
That's pretty funny.
Because you can go back to a couple of the old original videos, and I think you can even hear my son coming in there one time and asking me, I'm like, what is this going? You got to talk to me, Nick. I don't know what's going on here, because here I'm used to playing video games. That's all I ever did with my Tandy 1000, my Commodore 64, and now to get into all this technical stuff, I had to have my son show me the ropes. But
oh my God,
I've learned so much. I have learned over the last 5 years. Let me tell you, man.
You're bringing back memories. I had a TRS-80 Model 4. I had a Atari 400, Commodore 128. I had a Timex Sinclair. I had all these computers.
Yeah, we had a Texas Instruments too. There was a Texas Instrument computer that we had that was pretty much all for like school, like spelling, and it was boring. But the Commodore 64 and the and my Tandy 1000, that was it. I was the hot stuff, and the town because I had a dot matrix printer. I had dual cassette drives. Dude, I was like rocking. And then the 1.44 floppies came out, and it was just, that was it, man. Dual floppies.
Dual cassette drives. That's
everybody in the neighborhood was playing Pool of Radiance and Curse of the Azure Bonds.
Oh, yeah.
That was it, man. That's how we were playing D&D. It was awesome.
cool.
Ooh.
Hey, Barbersex, thanks for the follow. I'm sure I said that wrong. By the way, guys, if you have questions for Dave or for anything, any of us, anything about Fantasy Grounds, or it doesn't have to be about Fantasy Grounds, go ahead and type them in the chat, and we'll get to your questions and answer those. But yeah, I think it's pretty fantastic because I came on, I found Fantasy Grounds in September of 2015, and almost right away, I just searched the internet for Fantasy Grounds to try to find videos, and I found your Twitch site and your YouTube site right away, and then I found Schmoes shortly thereafter, and I started watching, and I'm like, this looks fantastic, and I had no aspirations of doing it myself. I didn't even think I would do it, and then shit gets away
I
from
didn't
you,
either.
and now
It just fell into my lap,
Yeah.
and it just went from there. So
Yeah,
I mean, I didn't expect it either.
I didn't even know what Fantasy Grounds was, 3 years ago. I had no idea what it was. Never heard of it, and I'd been playing D&D for a real long time. And there was a friend of mine introduced me to Roll20, and we had this whole thing set up where we had a guy from Germany who was going to be our DM, and we were going to do it on this fantastic thing called Roll20, and it was on my iPad and whatever. And then that whole game never even happened. And then I looked at Roll20 and I thought, hey, this looks kind of cool. You can do stuff online. But then I found Fantasy Grounds, and I was like, oh my God, look at
The bells and the whistles and everything. You're like, oh,
And
yeah.
then, obviously, anybody who's, probably everybody watching the show that knows me and that knows of you, all hell broke loose. Now I'm streaming and doing YouTubes, and all of a sudden one day Doug hit his head on the bathroom counter and hired me, and then who knows? I would never have guessed ever, like 3 years ago, that this is what would be happening.
No, I'm right there with you. It's like when I first started streaming, there was 2 or 3 games, and then they only streamed like once or twice a week. So here I'm like, okay, I'll just start. I had just graduated college from UCF. Go Knights! We are the national champions. Okay, we're the self-proclaimed national champions anyway. So I started streaming 5, 6, 7 days a week, man, and I did it for 2 years plus, and it the channel had grown a lot, but D&D was brand new. So I was having 2, 3, 4, 500 people in my channel every night, and that was awesome. So I got partnered and all that other stuff. But then, I think the newness of Dungeons and Dragons kind of wore off, and everybody else started going back to the, League of Legends and World of Warcraft and Diablo 3 and all that stuff. So, but yeah, it's funny because the community on Twitch is so small. And there's which is great. I like seeing all these games being streamed. I mean, some nights there's 70 and 80 games being streamed at one time. I mean, that's crazy. I never thought that, 4.5 going on 5 years ago, I never thought that there would be that many D&D games streamed at one time. So it's nice to see the channel has evolved. But unfortunately, the viewer base isn't there. The only time there's any kind of massive viewer base in the D&D channel is when Geek and Sundry or ItMeJP stream. So, that's the unfortunate thing about it. And I wish Twitch would do more to promote D&D.
Yeah, I do too. I actually had them put me on the front page in December of 2016. And that was a good 3 hours. And then I went to them and I said, and I'm not partnered. I mean, I'm an affiliate, but I'm not a partner. And I went to them and said, when are you going to do that again? A feature, role-playing RPG or D&D? And they go, we're not. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's how it is.
It's because, let's see, there's either 100 people in the D&D directory or there's 50,000 or 100,000 in League of Legends. I mean,
yeah,
the D&D directory makes them no money. So
we get no love from them, but at least they let us turn it on, so that's fine. Oh, and if it goes out right now, we know what happened because they're listening.
We got a question.
Yeah, go for it.
NSA 374.5 recording.
What's the question?
All right. One of the questions in the chat is, what's your favorite role-playing game ever, or board game, or video game, or rule set?
For who? All of
That's
us?
no, that's
or-
for you.
For Dave.
Okay. All right. Well, let's see. Board games, you guys are going to totally slap me on this, but I like Monopoly. I really do.
It's a
But
classic.
because I like Monopoly. I played Blood Bowl a little bit when I was younger, but I don't really remember it because it was 30 years ago, 25 years ago. But I've just recently, since I've moved, I went into my local Walmart here in El Paso, and I found all three of the Magic the Gathering board games for $5 a piece on clearance. I guess the Mexican population doesn't like Magic the Gathering in El Paso, because when I bought, there was three of each, so I bought 9 for $45, and these the base game has the bonus Walmart pack in it too. So I have like all the extra rare tiles and cards and minis and stuff. And the lady said, "Oh, I'm so glad that somebody finally bought those. That took up so much shelf space. Thank you." And yeah, I bought all this. So I haven't played them yet, but I'm going to. And then I went to a comic book store that I found, and I just bought like an old version of the Dungeon the board game. So
Dungeon the board game's awesome.
yeah. So now that I'm here in El Paso, I'm broadening my horizons, and I'm going to start doing an around the table game. So I had to buy a couple of board games. So in July, I'll be starting. I've met some young guys here in Texas, and I've got 4 people coming over, and we're going to play twice a month. One night we're going to play board games, and one night we're going to play D&D. So
awesome.
Yeah, heck yeah.
And I
yeah.
bet go ahead, Leroon.
I was a proud owner of Dark Tower. I had that
Never
game.
heard of it.
Oh, Dark Tower.
Milton
Dave,
Bradley.
Dark Tower. Oh God.
TSR sued him. TSR sued them, and they had to quit making it.
Was a board game that had an actual tower in the center of the board that spun around, and it made sounds, and you had to go around and find keys and try to beat the bad dragon at the end. And they used a lot of terminology. They got sued by TSR because they used certain copywritten words and phrases from
Displacer Beast and Beholder and stuff like that, right? Yeah.
Yep.
But that, if you go search on eBay for Dark Tower, it's like $400 to try and buy one from somebody.
Try 1,000 now.
Yeah.
Wow.
But there is an emulator online, and I also think on Steam, on tabletop, what's that called? Tabletop Simulator. I think you can get an emulator for it that plays pretty good. But that's a cool game. And I know that before, I have a guess as to what your answer is going to be, but they also wanted to know your favorite rule set for RPGs. I think I know what it might be, but go ahead and tell people what your favorite one.
Let's see. I'll be honest here. I like both. I like 4E and 5E. Those are, they're neck and neck. But then again, I played, I got into D&D in 84, and, I played classic D&D when an elf was an elf and a halfling was a halfling, and, the cleric, the rogue, and the magic user, they were all humans. So I love classic too. I love first edition advanced. That's what I played for 15 straight years. We played a hodgepodge mixture of classic first and second edition. So I didn't really get fully into second edition, not beyond like the core books and a couple of the handbooks and racial books, because it was so marketed, that game. There were books for books and books. So, as a young kid growing up, you can only mow so many yards and buy so many, $15 and $20 books. So
Yeah.
we did do stuff like Ravenloft and the original Undermountain box set. So that's stuff that I did pick up, but we still, because first and second edition are pretty much the same game mechanic wise, except for second edition adds some more stuff, but other than that, it's almost the same game. And plus we had classic, and I had about a 15-year period, I had a legit level 31 cleric from D&D.
Oh man.
Basic D&D. Yeah, so we didn't quite make it to Immortal. I was hoping we were going to make it to Immortal, but our DM, he was so stingy with XP, man. We would go weeks at a time, and we would play multiple times every week, and we do so much stuff and never get any XP, so we got ripped
Boo!
off.
XP. I want
I
XP.
still have my character sheet that I've showed off in stream a couple times. It's like 10 pages, my character sheet. I've got like 3 pages of gems, and I swore if I ever DM'd, which that I said to myself, I'm never going to put this work into it because I just want to play like everybody else. So I have like so many pages of gems, and I said, if I ever DM, I'm going to get rid of all these 5 and 10 gold piece gems, and I'm just going to make a currency called gems. And that's what I did when I started DMing. That stuck in my mind, and I remember saying that. So
Yeah.
I don't give out, oh, you got a 20 gold carnelian and you got a 20 gold azurite and there's 4 or 5 gold rubies. I don't do that. I'm just like, all right, you guys got 200 gold and gems. I'm splitting them up. So that's what I did.
Yeah, that's awesome. The one thing I was going to mention earlier, and we kind of got sidetracked, as we would, 3 guys just talking, but Leroon has made this Fantasy Grounds College, and it's got almost 2,000 people in it, which is pretty amazing to me because, like Dave, you were saying that the audience, it used to be a big audience for Twitch, but then everybody kind of fell aside, and the audience got fractured. And Critical Role has Geek and Sundry has their big 50,000 people watching every Thursday or whatever it is.
It's Will Wheaton. It's Felicia Day and Will Wheaton.
Yeah,
that's what made it popular. So yeah.
And so,
but Matt Mercer is awesome though. He does a good job. But I think sometimes that the exaggeration is just too far fetched. So, but he is awesome though.
Well, they are doing they're doing a show, and what I like about Fantasy Grounds is it's less about the players' voices and faces and more about the actual game. You can see on the screen the tokens and the map, and with watching their thing, you can't see that. And I mean, I know they have set pieces and everything, but then if they have to change locations, what do? They have to break that whole thing down and redo it. And
I think it's just all theater of mind anyway. Yeah. So, what they try to do. And I don't do that. I want to show off the platform because and this, Rob, you get asked many questions. How do you do this? How do you do that? And that's why I stream with the DM's view, is because people can see something and they're like, oh, so that I can't tell you how many times. Oh, that's how that's done. That's awesome. Thanks, Dave. So
yeah. Yep, that happens a lot, and it's fun.
And plus, my players aren't professional voice actors that are plugging their Twitter and their work for the entire show. So,
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you do when you come in the door? What do you do? Oh, I'll try a stealth check. Hashtag Twitter and my my T-shirt company and everything. What's Yeah, that's funny. I love it.
I have a pet peeve with one of those voice stream DMs. The Theater of the Mind folks. I'm not going to mention names, but I just cannot do it. I am sorry.
Theater of the Mind is okay.
Can you spell their names?
I'm not going to spell it. I'm not going to discredit anybody on here, but anybody that knows me knows who I'm talking about. I just can't do it.
I don't mind Theater of Mind. I mean, you can transition on OBS to like a role-playing screen with everybody's, cams on and stuff, but then again, all of my players now, most of my players are patrons. So, I don't want to put them into the public spotlight. So that's why I don't run webcams on my games anymore. But in the future, if I decide to hashtag maybe run another game with my old school players and we do webcams, then there will be webcams on there and kind of transitioning back and forth. So.
Yeah,
that's cool.
I think I like to focus on the table, but I do think that I've had comments where people will say they want to see the players' faces, they want to see their reactions, and they want to see them like when something blows up or whatever. They wanted to see the look on their face, and I think it's good, but I mean, obviously I'm super biased because I love Fantasy Grounds, but when I saw what you could do, there's this whole subset of people who don't understand watching other people playing video games. I don't want to watch somebody play. I want to play. But there is
Yeah.
there is an audience for that. There's an audience who want to see, other people manipulate tokens on a map and roll dice and, try to get out of the situation and talk to the NPC and hope to God, your insight check pays off or, whatever it might be. But yeah.
I used to do that all the time. I used to do a lot of prepping streams, but as time went on and I kept doing more and more games, I'm just literally killing myself doing 7 games, 5 games every week, or 7, 8, 9, 10 games that rotate every 2 weeks. And so it got to the point where I was just streaming games, and I got away from what I also enjoyed doing, which was like the prep and stuff. But now I only have 2 games now that I've moved out here to El Paso, and I'm with Fantasy Grounds full time. I just don't have the time to run 7 games every 2 weeks. So I've basically, and I stopped doing this last month, and I've saved myself in excess of time of over 100 hours a week. Because how people will just think that it's all about just hitting that start stream button and that's it. But there's so much more involved. There's all of the planning, the prepping, the content writing, setting everything up in Fantasy Grounds. You have video editing, putting stuff on YouTube, social media stuff, and it's like it is a massive undertaking. And I've had so many people say, every day I get emails and YouTube comments, and you've inspired me, and do you have any tips for me? You've inspired me to make a YouTube channel. And I just laugh and I just say, get ready for a lot of sleepless nights, because they're like, I want to do a YouTube channel in the capacity that you're doing. And then I even start laughing even more when they say that. And then I say, get ready for a lot of sleepless nights. And then 2 weeks later, they always reply back, you weren't kidding, Dave. I don't have time for this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I remember when I first talked to you at any length, like you and I had our first conversation. That was probably 10 or 20 minutes way back when, a couple of years ago. I had told you asked me what I was doing. And at that time, I had 10 games a week.
it's too much.
2 of them were in real life and 8 of them were online. And I remember you said to me, oh man, you got to be careful. Rob, you're going to burn out. You don't burn out, man. I don't know if you remember that. Yeah. And then,
oh yeah, I do. And I remember telling Will and Encounter Roleplay that too. I remember telling all these people, do not do that much. You are going to become a zombie. When you become the machine D&D, you are going to wear yourself out. And even if you love this stuff as much as I love it, as much as you love it, if you just do this nonstop, you wake up and you do nothing but D&D, Twitch, and YouTube for 16, 18 hours in a day, and you felt like you've got nowhere, and then you go to sleep stressing out that you've got all this stuff that you haven't gotten done, you're going to wear yourself out. And I did that, and I had to literally a couple of years ago, about a year and a half ago, I had to say, okay, my son came down from Tennessee when he was living up there at the time. He came down to see me, and we went out to dinner, and he says, Dad, you look sick. And he says, Dad, you're not sleeping or anything like that. He says, man, you're doing this way too much. And that's when I knew, when my son said something, I knew that I had to change, plus I had, a bunch of stuff, going on in the background too. So I had to unplug for a couple of months, and it was nice that I did do that, because man, I was on the path of dying at my computer live on stream. That would have got views.
High ratings. Yeah.
That would have got views.
Hey Dave, you gave me the same speech, and so that's Coach David, by the way.
I did. And especially when you started telling me that you had 500, 600, 700, 800, the first word out of my mouth, I'm pretty sure I said, better you than me, I think.
Yep.
I said, better you than me, when you start getting into those types of numbers. So.
And then you said, how many bands have you done?
Yep, exactly. How many?
I've done 3. I've done 3.
For that many people, that's really good. So, and I've just recently opened up mine. Yeah, it's crazy. That's a ridiculous number. And I've almost, I just actually within the last couple of weeks opened up my general chatting for the public too, which I kept it for my patrons. So, but I've had a massive influx of people, and I've been so lucky to where I haven't had any problems. But that just goes to show the awesomeness of the D&D community anyway, because of course there's trolls out there, but for the most part, the D&D community is awesome, and I haven't had any problems. But I did see something in chat that I do want to Nebbiolo. And this is one thing I do butcher the human and English.
I am so bad at that. I can't read people's screen names.
Nebbiolo said Matt Mercer is good at attracting people to D&D, and you got to give him that. And I 1,000% agree with that. I mean, he has been so good for bringing in new players into D&D. And you could thank Geek and Sundry for that, because most of the time they did board games and stuff. But right. Yes, Geek and Sundry has really helped. D&D is more popular than ever before, and role-playing games in general. And it's because of technology now. It's not because, and I hate to say this, and I love brick and mortar stores, but the brick and mortar stores are not pulling people in. It's social media, it's Twitter, it's Facebook, it's Twitch, it's YouTube. It's all of the social media and other digital platforms that is the reason why that D&D is expanded to the way it is. That's why you see Wizards of the Coast, they were so afraid of digital stuff years ago, but now Fantasy Grounds, D&D Beyond, Roll20, and all these other digital platforms, it's good to see, that our hobby that we love so much grow in such a massive way.
I have a question.
Sure.
The brick and mortar stores have kind of dried up, and as far as I know, there used to be a D&D store, and now occasionally you can find a bookstore that'll have that. But
Barnes and Noble still does.
Yeah, but they took out most of Barnes and Nobles where I live, so I don't know what that means. But it's really odd that Fantasy Grounds and a lot of the other digital platforms seem to be still kind of second. There's still that PDF book thing going on. And I don't quite understand that yet, but maybe that'll flip-flop.
Well, most of the publishing companies, like you have your Pelgrane Press, your Green Row 9 Publishing, all of the other game companies, Chaosium, they give out free PDFs when you buy a book online, or they give it to you at a steeply discounted price. And I don't know why Wizards of the Coast doesn't want to sell PDFs. I mean, I would love to buy. I'd pay double. I mean, in fact, I'm going to pay triple because I want it on Fantasy Grounds too. So, it's just they are into the digital market now, and I'm so happy to see that they've got all these different digital media presences throughout the Al Gore's interwebs. So it's nice to see D&D doing that now, instead of just everything's around the table and brick and mortar and stuff. Because when 5e first came out, I wanted to do it Adventurers League online, and I approached them, and I was told, no, this is not going to happen. And then 6 months later, guess what? They're online, and they have a website, because that's just the way that everything is going. Everything is going online. So,
should we give away a prize?
Oh my God. Let's give away a prize. I was so involved in the conversation, I forgot about that. Let's absolutely give away a prize. Now, Dave, you said you brought some stuff for people today.
Yeah, I do. I do have some Beholder stickers that I was going to try to give out on the Fantasy Grounds stream yesterday, but we were just so excited about talking about everything else, and I kind of forgot about it. So I've got some Beholder stickers that I'll mail out to some people. And then I also have some codes for Sword Coast Legends and Neverwinter Online too. So,
all right, let's give away some Beholder stickers. How many of those do you want to give away, Dave? How many Beholder stickers?
How many Beholder stickers do I have, Rob? I have this many Beholder stickers.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, let's do like
There's
5.
Probably a couple of hundred or so. Sure,
Good
let's
Lord.
do it.
Okay, so I'm gonna do a keyword raffle. And I will start that. We'll put a 5-minute timer on it. And I will draw 5 winners from from these. Thanks for reminding me about, by the way, Leroy and I would have let that whole thing go by. So if you guys want a Beholder sticker from Dave, type in exclamation Beholder in the chat, and we will get you entered. And Dave, can you hold up one of those? I took you off the camera for a second. Can you hold one up?
Sure. Yeah, this is in case you don't know, this is Xanathar.
Yeah.
So Chris, my buddy Chris over at Wizards of the Coast sent me a whole bunch of stuff last year, and I still got a bunch of Beholder stickers left. So I'll put a couple of Beholder stickers in an envelope for you, and I'll throw in a code for Sword Coast Legends or Neverwinter or something like that too.
Perfect.
Oh, well, there you go. Okay, so I guess we'll do it all at once then. If you want to get the Beholder stickers and a code for the game that Dave's going to give away for you, then go ahead and type exclamation Beholder in the chat, and we'll give you about 3 more minutes, and we'll draw 5 names. That's excellent. Thanks for doing that, Dave.
Yeah, that's awesome.
No problem at all.
We try to give away a prize every show, but we always like it if the person who's the guest on the show has good stuff, because otherwise I usually end up defaulting to just giving away.
I give away, so I've been opening up a ton of miniatures lately. I don't know. I know you guys know that. I've opened up literally 8 full cases of Icons of the Realm. So I'm a huge miniature fan. I've always loved miniatures, and ever since the mid 2000s when Chainmail Minis came out and the 4th edition miniature game came out with these beautiful pre-painted miniatures, I'm like, all right, this is what I'm into now. So I've pretty much, I'm missing like 36 miniatures total out of all 8 of the editions that have came out from, and they're all based off of the 5e modules. So there's the Monster Menagerie, which is the Monster Manual creatures. There's 3 versions of those. There's Tyranny of Dragons. So I basically been buying these cases as they've been coming out, pre-ordering them, and they sat in my closet in Florida for years because I didn't have anywhere to put them. So now that I've moved, I've bought all this nice shelving, and I've got shelves and shelves of just rows of miniatures. So.
That's awesome. Yeah, I watched you open a couple of those boxes, and you got to keep it clean. I'll keep it clean on aisle 17. That's right.
Oh, man, because that first time that I opened up minis, I was literally trapped around my desk because I just had boxes and plastic and little miniature bags, and I was like, man, I gotta keep this clean next time. So I started bringing bags with me. So, but nice. Yeah, I love minis, man. This is the new Storm Giant, the male Storm Giant that just came out.
Ooh, sweet.
That's awesome, man. Yeah.
Check out the follow.
Check out the Goblin Hucker. This is even better.
Oh, let me enlarge your picture there. Oh my God.
You got a couple goblins sitting in there, and they catapult them off of the ogre. Yeah, I only got 1 of these out of the case. I wish I got more, but I did get 4 of the awesome Fire Giant Dreadnought that is dual wielding the tower shields. And these are beautiful minis, man. I love them.
That's the only thing. I mean, I love Fantasy Grounds. I mean, it's too obvious how much I love it. But the one thing I do miss about in real life games, and I'm
fanboy.
Yeah, that's right. I'm a fanboy.
Me too. I am too.
But so. I love miniatures, and I love to play in person at the kitchen table so you can use the miniatures. And even though if I ever DM at the kitchen table with people, I still bring my laptop for the combat tracker, and I use it. I can't not use Fantasy Grounds. But let's see how
game, I'm going all old school, Rob. I'm going all old school, man. I've printed out all of Vay's maps in full size 1 by 1 inch grids. I've been buying buku amounts of miniatures. I've bought all kinds of tile packs. I mean, I have all the 4E and 3.5. I bought a badass castle dungeon screen, dungeon master screen. Nice. Oh man, I've bought character portfolios for all of my players. So man, they are totally going to be spoiled, man. When we played, it's going to be so fun.
I see a trip to El Paso in my future.
Hey, I'll tell you what.
By and see that.
That would be awesome. I really wish that I could do a giveaway to invite people over to my house for a week, even though I live in a 1-bedroom home now. I've downgraded from a 4-bedroom home to a 1-bedroom home. Let me tell you, there's a big difference room-wise. But I wish I could fly 4 people out, keep them, here for a week, and I wish I could do that, but unfortunately I can't. But that's on the if I win the lottery list of
There
things.
you go. If you win the lottery.
And dig a dungeon down below my house and actually have a real dungeon. Stuff like that.
Cool.
I think we should do a Dave Con.
With DaveCon 2020. All right, let's draw some winners here. We've got our
never 20.
We've got our entries here for the beholder. So I'm just going to pick 5 winners, and the winners, when I pick your name, actually, you know what? I'm gonna open a little notepad here on my desktop, and I am gonna write these people down because, God forbid, we forget somebody or whatever.
You forgot my beholder sticker. I hate you.
I never got my sticker. Layron, can you write these down for me?
Sure.
Okay, so let's draw some winners. Here we go. First one is Lord Havoc. Lord Havoc, congrats. You are winner number 1. Lord Havoc has won. Let's go for number 2. Number 2 is George Jarvis 24. I think he's won something before on the stream, maybe. That's good. George Jarvis, number 24, is number 2. Let's draw a third winner.
I'm just here for the giveaways, and I'm unfollowing afterwards. That's it. I'm out of here. I didn't win.
Punted Gnome is
nice.
PG is our third winner. Punted Gnome. Yeah, if by the way, when I pick the winner, I can tell if they're a follower or not, and if they're not, I cuss them out.
Boo.
I just go right over them. I don't even because I know I would be crucified by my audience if I gave something away to somebody that wasn't following.
All right, let's go for number 4. EPTX Brewer, Texas Brewer. I'm fucking up your name, and I apologize, but congratulations, you are a winner. EP Texas Brewer.
If you're in El Paso, I've got 1 spot available at the table.
Oh my God, El Paso, Texas Brewer. That could be it. He could be in El Paso.
That's what I think it is. That's what I think. I hope it's El Paso, Texas Brewer, yeah. And we do have a couple of breweries here in El Paso.
All right, one more.
If we can get a hookup, Rob. Let's see if we can make a connection.
He's
in El Paso! That's player number 5.
There we go.
You're bringing the beer, dude.
Number 5.
You are bringing the beer.
We got too excited. I got to pick one more. Here we go. Draw. 5th winner is, look at that. Vecna, you win, and you're not a follower. Boo! Boo!
Bum, 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 bum.
You got to hit that follow button, Vecna. There you go.
I do have to say this, Rob. El Paso Brewer guy, I want him to send me a message on Twitch. So, or actually go to my website, digitaldungeonmaster.com. digitaldungeonmaster.com, and send me a message if you want to play in a game, dude, because I've got 1 spot available for my around the table game.
Wow, that's a good gift there.
You never
What
know
a connection.
What the fuck is going to happen on this show? We just hooked up a real life player in El Paso, Texas for Dave's game. That is insane.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome, man.
He says, That's cool. Will do. Awesome. Thank you for following the stream, Vecna. Vecna just followed. Excellent. Peer pressure. Put on the pressure.
He's like, I'm out of here. I got my prize. I'm out. I'm outie. Then get me those. Reach out to them, get their addresses, and then get it over to me. And when I go out to finalize switching all of my tags and stuff like that over next week, I'll get that stuff out because I've got a bunch of stuff that I got to get out to my viewers too. So
so those of you that won, if you would like, PM me in Discord, and I'll put the Discord in the chat in case you're not on my Discord. Then why not? You should be on my Discord. So that's the link to my Discord, and just PM me in Discord your email, and I'll make sure that Dave gets your info if you don't contact him directly. And then we'll get you out your Beholder, your Xanathar stickers. so that you can put that on your book bag or whatever. I don't know where people put stickers on the back window of your car, whatever you want to do. That would be kind of cool, actually. And
I put one on the back of my mother's 75-year-old mother's car, and she had someone come up and say, "Oh my gosh, you play D&D?" And she says, "What are you talking about?" And then you showed her. I didn't even tell her I put a sticker on there.
That's
and
hilarious.
she says, "Oh, that was my son."
Oh, that's funny. So Vecna actually has a question. Do you feel DMing takes some of the mysticism away from the game for new players who are just starting out? Should we know what is going on behind the curtain?
I don't think so. I have a soft spot for new players. I always have. You know, what has always irked me in an online presence is when I see on forum posts, "No new players. I'm tired of showing people how to play the game." That irks me. I've
That's
always
rude.
had a soft spot for new players. So no, I don't think it does. I think they have to have an open mind to play D&D. You know, if they don't, there's a lot of variables involved, but yeah, I think new players are great who are just starting out. So, you know, you could maybe, you know, if you're going full Matt Mercer on them, maybe you might scare someone away, but for their first time ever playing. But I think for the most part, once they play, they'll be hooked. So
yeah. Yep, I was. Everybody knows my story about fucking Kevin, but I still am here. I almost never played D&D again after the first time I played, but now you can't stop me.
Well, El Paso, Texas brewer. I cannot believe that, man. That's the first time.
That's pretty awesome.
Time I've seen somebody that lives.
And here's me
trying.
I'm struggling. I'm like EP Texas brewer. I couldn't figure it out, and then you got it. But yeah, if you guys have any more questions for Dave, post them. We've done 45 minutes already. It doesn't seem like it.
It's going by fast.
No.
But if you guys
He's
have
definitely
questions,
bringing the beer. That's for sure.
Yeah,
all right, I got a question.
You can't put brewer in your name and then not show up with beer. That'd be bad for
No doubt.
What's up? What's up, Playroom?
All right. So, are you still doing your PDFs and that sort of things? Is that still a thing, or how's that going?
Yeah, I've redone my patron page. I'm in the process of I've got 2 PDFs that I'm working on, and I need to get out there because of my move and all that other stuff going on. But I've adjusted it recently to where once I'm still going to be creating content, but I'm not going to be putting it on PDF until I hit the next goal. But to compensate for that, I've added more giveaways for my patron page. So, but yeah, I'm definitely going to be doing it. And that's, you know, saving the 90 plus to 100 hours every 2 weeks from dropping all of those games. It's allowed me to turn on the stream more and, you know, brainstorm with the community. But now here's a new variable thrown into the mix. You know, Pathfinder 2nd Edition was announced, you know, a half ago. And I love the 5e rule set, but I also like what I'm seeing about Pathfinder 2nd Edition. So it's obviously off of the D20 license too. So I want to see what the Pathfinder 2nd Edition is going to be all about, because I already know that my world and my setting I'm going to be doing in Savage Worlds because I love Savage Worlds, and I'm going to try to get a license for that. And I want to do another rule set simultaneously, but I don't know if it's going to be 5e or Pathfinder 2nd Edition. So chances are it'll probably be 5e still because I love the rule set, but there's that chance that, you know, 2nd Edition Pathfinder may just blow my socks off, and then I'll want to make my game in that with that rule set also. So, but yeah, but I'm still going to be creating the world, the history, the lore, all of the areas, towns, NPCs. So yeah, that stuff's going to still be put out in PDFs. So,
have you thought about using like World Anvil or one of the other third-party websites to manage all that information?
I've never heard of World Anvil. I'm old school, man. I've got on my shelf, I've got 10 2 and 3 inch ring note binders that are just full of names, people, places, adventure ideas, monsters from my whole life of playing D&D. And a lot of the stuff I can't even read because my writing when I was a kid was so bad. And, it's like I got to break out my Ovaltine decoder to try to translate this
Your
stuff.
Ovaltine decoder. Oh,
Yeah.
my God. That was a deep dig right there. Ovaltine decoder.
Yeah. So I think most people may know where that comes from, but yeah.
Oh yeah.
Here's a good question. What are the 5e rules that you personally don't like and have to homebrew?
I don't really homebrew anything. I mean, at first when 5e came out, I was so anti sneak attack. I thought sneak attack was just ridiculous because I'm an old school player. There's flanking. So just walking up to someone, standing beside your partner or your party member, and you just tell this guy, you say you're Brutus the Rogue, and you say, dude, I'm going to totally sneak attack you right now. And then, of course, the NPC says back, what are you talking about? You're not flanking me. And then he gets gibbed for sneak attack. I was totally against that. But I know that over time, it fits the theme of 5e. 5e is just so simple that it fits perfectly. So not having flanking, but yet the optional flanking in the DMG, you can do that. So you have that option. So everything, the only thing that I don't like about 5e is wild shape. That's the only thing that kind of irks me a little bit because, anytime you watch a fantasy movie, read in books or anything like that, if someone shape shifts into something, takes a bunch of damage, and that life force that they've, shaped into is depleted, they are totally damaged and they're on the verge of death when they transform back into their natural self. But in D&D, you get like 4 times or 3 times or 2 times, you can just keep getting unlimited hit points. And I don't like that. That's the only thing that 5e is beautiful. I love everything about 5e except for wild shape. But other than that, I'm good to go, man.
Yeah, my pet peeve is PCs that fly, but that's only because of Fantasy Grounds. I think if I was playing, I wouldn't have that much of a problem with it if I was playing at the kitchen table. But when I shade a map and a flying PC goes, oh, I fly 50 feet in the air, so just go ahead and unshade the whole map. I'm like, no, we're not doing that, and no flying in my games.
Get rid of Aarakocras and get rid of the fly spell. Problem solved.
Now, if they have the fly spell, I'm okay with that because they're spending, they're expending their spell resources to do it. But if you're an Aarakocra or one of these Fakakta fucking winged tieflings or wherever the hell they have, and I'm just gonna go up in the air and fly around, I don't like it.
We made a table
I don't
for
mind
you.
that because here's my theory on that, Rob. What goes up must come down.
Well, that's true.
So,
right.
Yeah.
Shoot him with have a wizard come out and shoot like 10 magic missiles at him. So, I mean, it's like, because they're going to auto hit. You don't have to worry about a saving throw. You don't have to worry about a hit roll. But the only other thing that kind of, excuse me on that burp, I had to do that. The only other thing that kind of irks me a little bit is multi-classing. Just because of the whole, I want to take 1 level on barbarian or 1 level on fighter just so I can get, I can get resistance on everything and
Action
I can get
surge
an extra. Yeah, exactly.
And what the hell is the thing where you heal yourself all of a sudden?
You get your you also get that fighting skill too. You get to choose between. Yeah. So multi-classing really, I try to stay away from it. And wild shape, but I usually don't have any players. I finally, in my Lost Mine of Phandelver game, one of my players, Laddick, he's actually playing a wild shape, but he's such a great role player that I just totally overlook the, possibility of just exploiting wild shape, 4 times in one fight to have 1,000 hit points. So yeah, but yeah, there's such good role players. So, it's, if they role play, because when I first got into DMing, I was just like kicking the door and we were rolling initiative, dude. But I had a game that I ran about 3 years ago, my 13th Age game, which is a great rule set, by the way, too. And those players made me change as a DM. I went from a kicking in the door DM to a holy crap, these guys are way above my DMing level. So I had to up my game. I had to, or that game would have just stunk. So, I started doing crazy voices. I started, having more conversations with the NPCs and stuff. And ever since then, I'm like, wow, this is really fun. And I used to make fun of my son because he would role play on the Lord of the Rings online game, and that's huge for role play. And I would just totally rib him all the time. I'm like, "Are you Legolas? Are you speaking to Gimli tonight?" And I would give him all these, I'd give him all these jibes. But man, I'm like, I think I'm probably a little bit more role playing now. I'm like probably about a 60-40 DM now. So 60% role play and like 40% exploration. And well, I'd say 60% role play and exploration and like maybe even less than 40% combat.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, we just heard from, you probably already know this, but we just heard from Deluxe Oz recently that 13th Age rule set is coming out for Fantasy Grounds.
Yeah, it's been I actually have a 13th Age rule set for Fantasy Grounds that I got from the forums a couple of years ago.
Yeah, he's been working on it for a real long time, but I think it's in the final stages of approval to actually be able to be for the public. So
I don't know anything about that. I have no clue about that.
Yeah, he told us. He told us.
Yeah, well, it's on the forums anyway. So, yeah. But yeah, I downloaded that 13th Age rule set, and it was just totally broken, and I think that's why Oz, it's basically takes the 4th edition rule set and just changes everything to fit 13th because it's almost a spinning image of the same game. So there was a bunch of issues with the rule set and stuff. So I commissioned one of my friends to fix all of these errors, and he did. But I never got to use the 13th Age rule set. So,
yeah.
But now the official one's going to be coming out in the future, and I'm sure anything Deluxe does is really good. So,
well, and I know that there's in the conversions spreadsheet that the developers have, there's an item that's been sitting in there forever for 13th Age, but it says in there in yellow letters, no rule set. So nobody can convert it yet because there's no rule set to use it with. So when that finally happens, there'll be at least one adventure module that's going to get done for that too. So, and probably many more after that. So
it's a great rule set. It's like the Starfinder rule set. I mean, it's been so popular, and it's nice to see another game being played that is not, the big elephant in the room that everybody plays. So it's, there needs to be more rule sets. Well, not only just rule sets for Fantasy Grounds, but there needs to be more games to, broaden the horizons, and the Castles and Crusades, that's a great game. You got, Call of Cthulhu. I mean, there's Savage Worlds. There's so many great games out there, and people, this is what I've been really pushing lately is open your mind. There's more games out there than the elephant in the room. So
what? You must be kidding me. I can't believe there's only 5th edition. There's no other game.
I can't believe it. I'm unplugging now. I'm unfriending. This guy's crazy.
Unfriend. Yeah.
Take those Victorian lampshades off and look around.
Yeah, it's funny because I tell people, one of the things I'm fond of saying to people when they ask me about developing modules for Smiteworks is, oh, well, do you play Pathfinder? And I'm like, no, I've never played Pathfinder, not even for 5 minutes. But didn't you develop 12 or 14 titles for Smiteworks that are Pathfinder? I'm like, oh, yeah. Because James Holloway said to me one day, why don't you do some Pathfinder stuff? And I said, well, I can't. I've never played it. He goes, you don't need to know how to play. So,
but Fantasy Grounds makes it easy. It's like 4th edition. It takes care of all of your roles. It takes care of all of your confirmations. It keeps track of everything for you. It's like 4th edition. It keeps track of, I've tricked my players into playing 4th edition and they think it's 5th edition. And then after I tell them it's 4th edition, they're like, wow, dude, can we play a 4th edition campaign? And that's how all 3 of my 4th edition campaigns came into fruition.
You tricked them.
Because it takes care of all of your saving throws. If you have 4 ongoing damages, it's stuff that you would forget about around the table. Fantasy Grounds doesn't let you forget.
Yeah.
So it's awesome.
Yep. I did play a 4th edition game once with Spite. He was a DM.
Mm-hmm.
And my chat went out. Oh, there it is. It's back. But yeah, and I liked 4th edition.
Because everybody unfollowed. That's why it disappeared.
Yeah, that's how fuck no D&D. I'm out. But I liked fourth edition. I had fun with fourth edition, from 2009 to 2014 until fifth edition came out. And then I was like, oh my God, this is like AD&D. It's really simple. I like
streamlined,
it. Yeah, so really couldn't.
Rob, I have everything for fourth edition. I love fourth edition. I have every single fourth edition hardback, all 44. I have all of the hardback third-party stuff. I have every token, every class token set, every pack of power cards. I have every module. I'm missing like 5 layer assaults, but I have everything. And I have the rare WizKids Dungeon Master token kit, everything I need. All the blast, the clear transparent blast and, lines and cones. But playing that around the table is going to be super hard. It's going to be very time consuming. And then, I don't think I would play it around the table. I think I would rather play fourth edition on Fantasy Grounds.
Yeah.
Because like I said, it takes care of everything for you.
I have most of the books. I do have the character minis. I have about 300 minis is all. But I went hog wild, from like 2010 to 2013. And I have most of the WotC modules, some of them still in the cellophane. Haven't even opened them.
Nice.
Because I got sick.
Yeah, same
I
here.
was playing D&D and then I got sick and had to go have a liver transplant and whatever else. But it's a minor
Whoa.
detail. And
that's a minor detail, but that's major, dude.
It was a major. Yeah, I was sick. And it's funny because during the time I was sick, the only things I did were I went to the doctor, I went to the dentist, I went to the grocery store, and then sometimes I went to people's houses to play 4th edition D&D. That's all I did. Otherwise, I was just in bed. This was for 6 years. But yeah, so I had all this 4th edition stuff. But then when I woke up in the hospital in August of 2014, and somebody said to me, 5th edition, and that was it. It was over. And then a month later, or a year later, I found Fantasy Grounds, and then now look at us.
Yeah, I mean it's such an easy game to play, and that's why do you think, another major player out there is creating another edition is because they lost a big piece of the pie. So, that's why they're going to probably streamline talking about, about Pathfinder. I do love Pathfinder. I do like Pathfinder, but 3.5 isn't my favorite rule set, and I'm a very rule light dungeon master. And from what I've figured out on my own about Pathfinder is this game leads to arguments and debating on rules because of the multitude and the complexity of this rule set. And believe me, there is and I love this because there's a rule for everything, but when that happens, it leads to debate. And when, half of the session is debating, XY axes and all this other stuff, I don't want any part of it, and that's why I stopped playing Pathfinder was because of the whole multitude of rules that there are that led to debate. But when PFRPG 2E comes out, I think that's totally going to change. And the industry needs that because Pathfinder is a beautiful game. I mean, look at the world of Galarion, the Inner Sea, everything that they have for that game. Just and I'm setting aside all of the class, the advanced players books and stuff like that. I'm just talking about the lore of the game is just amazing. Just because of all of the resource guides they have, the regional guides, all of the adventure paths that actually take place in these areas. Oh, it's awesome, man. I love that. I just eat that kind of stuff up.
There was a period, Dave, of about 10 or 15 seconds where I said to myself, when I heard about Pathfinder 2.0, I thought, you know what, maybe I'll give this a shot. Maybe I'll start with the new 2nd edition. It'll be streamlined, it'll be better. And then I went and I researched it a little bit. And I watched a video with the 2 guys that are the creators from Paizo, and they said, hey, all you got to do is go to your game store and pre-order the playtest materials, and we'll make sure you get them and you can playtest it and everything. And I thought, oh man, this is fantastic. So I clicked on the link and I looked up the playtest materials, and I thought, oh, this is fantastic. Look, they're hardback books. They're $60. It's $60 per book. It's $180 to play test the game. And I thought, you know what?
No, I just ordered it. I didn't. Maybe they down the prices, but you can get the map pack is like, I spent a total of $90 $90. But see, I get a 15% discount because I have all of the Starfinder subscriptions. So I have the core subscription, the adventure path, the map pack, and the utilities. So I get a 15% discount. So, I bought the collector's edition book. Usually I don't buy collector's editions, but I was like, you know what? I'll do it this time. So it was like $90. You get the 416 or 460 page core book. You get the almost 100 page adventure book, and then you get the 2 double-sided map packs. But if you don't have the subscriptions, of course, you may pay a little bit over $100. But then again, you do not need to get the $60 collector's edition. You can buy the softback. I think the soft cover is like $30. So you could only spend about $70, I think.
Yeah, so you can probably get away for a much, because I panicked and I lost my mind and just closed the browser when I was looking at it. But because the reason that happened for me was, I'm thinking if they're sending out playtest materials, and I'm not a businessman, I don't run Paizo, I'm not, and they are obviously there to make money, but I was a little resentful that they were giving playtest materials for money. I think they should give those for free PDFs.
They do. They are giving them. It is going to be public play in August, so you will be able to download.
Oh, you can.
Too.
Okay, yeah. So I need. Yeah. I'm glad I asked you.
Yeah, because it's big letters on the big banner, public playtest. So yeah, they're doing what 5e did with D&D Next. So yeah.
Yeah, because I liked what they did. I liked what 5e did, even though I was unconscious for the whole thing. But when I watched some of the videos, and I think they said they had 200,000 playtesters. So for 5e, so that was so that was really good.
One other thing I don't like about 5e, Rob, challenge rating. Get rid of that. Let's go back to level-based monsters, which was in the D&D Next playtest.
I can agree with that.
That was it. But that's it. So let's see. What does Dave not like about 5e? I don't like wild shape. I'm a little leery on multi-classing because of the exploitation that you can do with like Barbarian and Fighter and a couple other classes. And last but not least, that's right, what I just said. Challenge rating.
The entire basis of the monster system.
But man. The Matrix says in the Dungeon Master's Guide, there's such a huge variance. Here's a big difference between Starfinder and 5e. Everything in the Monster Alien Archive is cut and paste. If you're going to make a level 1 creature, this is how many hit points, this is the damage. I like that. I like it as a DM when I'm told this is what, if you want to make something custom, here's your base of everything. And then you just, if you're going to create that magical 4-armed fire poo flinging ape, then here's how much damage he's going to do. You just create the flavor text for the attack and stuff. And I like that. 13th Age is the same way. But in, D&D 5e, there's, 500 hit point variance for each challenge rating. Well, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but there's like huge spreads of numbers. So yeah, I just wish it would have been a little bit more cut and paste, but that's just my opinion.
Well, we'll see.
So you can add that to the list too, Rob. So there's 4 things now.
There's these 4 things.
But I love the game. I mean, obviously, if I didn't love the game, I wouldn't be playing it for 5 years straight. Since 2014, I wouldn't have played it. So, I mean, but I do love it. I like how everything just really flows, and you can have, like, I had a combat with 70 orcs against my party. I never had an encounter that big before. I was scared to hit the create encounter in the encounter that I made. It lagged for about 2 seconds or so. It didn't crash the program, and then it threw everything out on the map, and it was beautiful. And that entire encounter probably took maybe just under 2 hours with 5 party members and 70 orcs. I mean, it was fun watching them pull their hair out because everyone was surrounded, and
that's amazing. I love it.
It was great. Yeah, it was great.
Cool.
So, Rob, what do we got coming up next?
I'm going to tell you. I was just about to go over to the spreadsheet and look. Coming up next on Tuesday, it will be our last Tuesday show. We're going to have Gwydion on, and he's going to talk about Sirenscape and other sound crap, it says here. And so that'll be good. And then we've got other shows coming up with Lazy Stooner, Rogue, Schmo. We're going to be talking about streaming and account management. module making and stuff like that.
Awesome.
So we're starting Tuesday will be our last Tuesday show. Then we're going to Sundays only for a while, but same time and everything. So
I'm unfollowing. I can't do Sunday. I can only do Tuesday.
I'm only gonna unfollow.
That sounds familiar.
But Dave, I would love to thank you for hanging out with us. I was happy to do not our typical teaching show where we run through things or whatever. Just hang out with you because you're fun. You're fun to watch. People, by the way, Dave, can you tell everybody where they can find you, your stream and your website and your Twitter and everything?
Sure, yeah, if I can post it in here. I have a website, digitaldungeonmaster.com. I'm doing some maintenance on that, so it's really sloppy right now, and I apologize about that because I'm in the process of redoing some things. And I also stream. I'm back up to streaming multiple days a week now on Twitch, and it's twitch.tv/thedigital.dm, and you can find me there, and then you can also find me on YouTube as well. So with yeah, you can go to my YouTube channel from anywhere else. Just Google Digital Dungeon Master YouTube, and it'll pop up there.
Yep. And for those,
I want to thank you too, Digital DM and Rob, for having this show. Both of you guys, to me, were the conduit, or you guys kind of wrote the playbook for a lot of this stuff, and that's part of why the college has been going, is from you guys inspiring me and the community to make that.
Geez.
Oh my God!
Well, you do such a you just such you SOB. You do such a no, seriously. What you do for the community, I mean, is awesome, and we appreciate it. I appreciate it, and just don't wear yourself out, dude. Because when you're dealing with 2,000 people and you got 500 classes going on at one time and 20 games and a YouTube channel, both of you don't wear yourselves out.
Yeah, well, I've scaled back a little. I still do something every day, but it's not. I was doing 5e pickups game, which just took a lot out of me, and so I altered everything, and I started doing this show, which I thought would be better. It's not necessarily easier, but I think it's a better thing to show for people. Something different than just games, but still about Fantasy Grounds.
I stopped doing the pickup games years ago, Rob, because it just took so much effort to find the players. Well, this is years ago. Now I have people beating down the door trying to get into games now. But it's when you do these open forum games, and people don't have stuff downloaded, they don't know how to work nothing, so that took a lot to try to get everybody. It would take an hour and a half to get 4 players in there, and then here you go, here it is, 3 o'clock in the morning, and you're finally ready to start playing. And I'm like, man, that can't happen. So I just discontinued that.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
All right, well, I'm gonna stop the stream, Dave. You can hang out if you want, or you can just leave and leave us cold, like empty, cold people.
I'll hang out for a little bit. Subway doesn't close till 10 o'clock, and I need to go grocery shopping, so I'm going to Subway to get a sub tonight. So I've got a little bit of time still.
All right, but I am going to close the stream. So, guys, thanks for watching. Remember, prize winners, to let us know your email so we can get Dave the information. But I really appreciate everyone coming to hang out today, and we will be back on Tuesday. And so for my co-host Leroon and our special guest Dave, the Digital Dungeon Master, I bid you a good night, and until next time, good gaming, everyone.
See you, everybody.